coffee and smiled just slightly, because I knew Grenthorne's legal team didn't need a calendar invite to start moving. Those people are ex-2D and still treat weekends like combat zones. By Saturday morning, they were already digging, through archived emails, past amendments, call logs, change requests, renewal terms. Sunday evening, someone in our finance department texted me a screenshot of a Slack message that simply read, "Who approved removing the clause holder?" No one replied. Monday came the way a hangover does, loud, cruel, and full of consequences. I showed up to the office at 8:29 a.m. sharp, as always. Hair neat, blazer pressed, contract copy still folded neatly in my tote bag. I nodded to the receptionist. She didn't make eye contact. That's when I knew it was already over. By 8:37, a guy from facilities, Mark, poor kid, showed up at my cubicle holding a small cardboard box and looking like he'd rather be anywhere else. "Hey, Ellen," he mumbled, not meeting my eyes. "I was told to help you, collect your things." "No need," I said, pulling out the box I kept under my desk for seasonal mug rotations. "I travel light." I dropped in my charger, my stress ball shaped like a shipping crate, one photo of my niece and nothing else. I didn't take the plaque from 2018. Let them keep their hollow trophies. I didn't say goodbye to anyone. Why make ghosts out of the still living? At the security desk, I removed my badge and slid it across the counter. The guard looked confused. "They said someone would walk you out." "No need," I repeated. The front door opened with a hiss. The sun was too bright, the parking lot too quiet, but I didn't linger. I didn't cry. I didn't even curse. I got in my car, shut the door, and waited 5 full seconds. Then my phone buzzed. Kessler 9:02 a.m. Sit tight. This gets fun. That was it. No emojis, no signature. Just 6 words with the casual menace of a trigger warning. By lunchtime, whispers were leaking from Grenthorne's vendor relations team. The termination was flagged. Internal compliance raised concerns. An email chain surfaced showing Jared had made unilateral staffing changes without consulting legal, violating the terms of engagement for a Tier 1 contractor. I didn't need to lift a finger. All I had to do was not interrupt the machine while it chewed through him. That afternoon, my inbox was locked. My Slack profile blinked inactive. My name was removed from the weekly meeting roster. But the thing about trying to erase a key name is, sometimes that name is the one that unlocks all the consequences. I wasn't gone. I was detonated. By Tuesday morning, Wallace and Bray's lawyers had already entered the first stage of corporate grief. Denial, with a side of white-knuckled panic. They sent a memo to Grenthorne claiming the clause in question, Clause 17.4, Continuity of Service Provision, was contextual and non-binding under the current scope of vendor relationships. They even had the audacity to suggest the wording was outdated, referencing personnel no longer central to operational workflows. Here's the kicker. My name wasn't just scribbled in the margins. It was etched right there, bolded with a timestamp and initials from 3 executives, including the now-retired general counsel who used to call me the only adult in the damn building. And unlike most of the contracts Jared skimmed between reps at his standing desk treadmill, this one was never amended. Not once. Not in 12 years. Grenthorne's reply was swift. 1 sentence, 14 words. "Your firm has breached contract terms. Formal complaint and demand for damages incoming." By noon, the lawsuit was filed. Not threatened, filed. The number hit like a bomb, $38 million, immediate projected losses, government penalties, and potential delays in 5 military supply chains due to the severed continuity. But it wasn't just the dollar sign that did it. It was the fact that the breach was so stupidly preventable, so embarrassingly reckless, that PR couldn't even spin it. The firm's general counsel reportedly slammed a binder across a conference table and muttered, "You fired the clause holder?" Like he'd just found out someone accidentally donated the company credit line to a fake orphanage. Internal audits began within hours. HR logs were pulled. Email trails were scrubbed. Slack channels went read-only. Everyone was digging for someone, anyone, who could say they signed off on my termination. Didn't find anyone because there wasn't anyone. Jared, in all his sockless glory, had acted unilaterally. No legal review, no leadership sign-off, no due diligence, just vibes. He tried to pull rank, of course. Sent an all-hands email claiming the clause had aged out, that he was fully empowered to make strategic personnel decisions in alignment with post-pandemic restructuring goals. But HR wasn't biting. Legal wasn't biting. And the board. They weren't just not biting, they were sharpening their knives. A week later, an internal email leaked. 4 words in the subject line: "Who approved firing Ellen?" The thread had no replies, not even a single "let me check." Just a chain of executives quietly choking on their own omission. And me? I was on my porch, tea in hand, watching squirrels decimate my bird feeder. I didn't gloat, didn't toast. Just let the sun soak into my knees, while Grenthorne's legal team calmly dismantled every excuse Wallace and Bray tossed their way. By Friday, the firm's stock dipped 6 points. By Monday, their biggest West Coast client canceled a contract renewal. Someone in comms had the brilliant idea to call it an unfortunate misalignment of internal protocols, which is legalese for we hit ourselves in the face with a rake. Jared stopped posting on LinkedIn. His last update, excited to lead our next phase of growth, was now a grave marker floating above a battlefield he didn't know he'd started. No one blamed me, because I hadn't pushed the avalanche. I just stepped aside and let it fall. They tried to hide it at first, shove the whole mess behind a velvet curtain of legalese and press silence, but $38 million doesn't go quietly, and neither do government contracts. By the following Thursday, Wallace and Bray's board was herded into an emergency meeting that bled well past midnight. The kind where no one finishes their Pellegrino, and someone inevitably gets cornered in the hallway sobbing into a branded stress ball. The minutes leaked. Investor reps from at least 3 funds demanded heads, not metaphors, actual personnel terminations. One board member apparently asked, dead serious, "How do you accidentally fire someone named in a federal continuity clause?" Jared, in a last-ditch performance, tried to frame it as a miscommunication between HR and operations. He threw around words like fluid restructuring, climate, and alignment friction, but it didn't land. Not this time. Not with every C-level sitting there staring at a printed contract with my name on it. So they placed him on administrative leave, which is HR's version of slowly rolling you in bubble wrap before tossing you off the roof. His office was emptied overnight. His parking badge deactivated. They didn't even let him send a goodbye Slack. The general counsel, realizing his name had been on too many CC'd threads and too few action items, resigned before sunrise. No announcement. Just vanished. His assistant told someone he'd decided to refocus on family, which I guess is what you say when your inbox has become evidence. Audits began in earnest. Not the polite kind either. The kind where finance combs through meal reimbursements and IT pulls full text logs from every internal channel dating back 5 fiscal years. Half the firm went silent overnight, like rats realizing the lifeboats were reserved. And then came the cherry on the corporate sundae. Grenthorne's PR department issued a single-paragraph statement to the industry trades. It was clinical, bloodless, and brutal. Grenthorne Systems confirms a vendor continuity breach with Wallace and Bray. We are currently pursuing remedies as outlined in our agreement and have transitioned operational oversight accordingly. No spin, no dancing. Just confirmation that we'd screwed the pooch on a multi-year, multi-million-dollar deal. They were now in open pursuit of scalps. That same day, buried in my inbox between a coupon from Michael's and my niece's Girl Scouts fundraiser, came an email. From Anonymous at W by internal com subject. No subject, you warned them. They didn't listen, that was it. 7 words, but it hit harder than all the lawsuits combined. I sat there for a long moment, rereading it, thinking about every meeting I'd sat through where I'd flagged risks, filed compliance updates, submitted continuity assessments. All of it either ignored or repackaged and presented by someone with a better jawline and a worse understanding of logistics. Now, in some basement war room, my name was finally being spoken. Not with reverence. Not even with respect, but with regret. It wasn't satisfying, not exactly. It was something quieter, deeper. Like watching termites finally collapse the porch you told them about 5 years ago. And I didn't need a headline. I didn't need credit. All I needed was the sound of their panic echoing down the halls I used to keep standing. The invitation came by courier, not email. An embossed envelope tucked inside a navy folder bearing Grenthorne's logo in raised silver. Just my name. No miss, no preamble. Inside, a handwritten note on thick card stock. Lunch. I treat, just us. RK, there was no RSVP button, no location link, just a time, a date, and the name of a small bistro I hadn't been to since it catered for one of our earliest logistics summits. Back then, Kessler was just a regional director with a map tattooed to his brain and an allergy to incompetence. Now, he was CEO of the whole damn machine, and still remembered the waitress who got his order wrong once in 2013. I showed up 2 minutes early. He was already there, no tie, no bodyguard, just a clean linen shirt and a glass of iced tea sweating beside a spiral notebook. No laptop, no lawyer, no PR rep perched behind the ficus. It wasn't business theater, it was real. "Ellen," he said, standing, shaking my hand like we were sealing a pact instead of greeting for lunch. "You look unbothered." "I'm getting good at it," I said, taking my seat. Didn't talk about Wallace and Bray right away, or the lawsuit, or Jared. He asked about my niece, my garden, whether I still made those sweet potato biscuits I used to bring to supplier meetings. I asked him if his warehouse team ever figured out the pallet tracking software I warned them would fail during leap years. He laughed, he remembered. Eventually, he leaned forward. No menu, no signal to the waiter. "I'm offering you a position," he said. "Director of Continuity, it's yours to define. You set the hours, the scope, the title structure. I don't want optics, I want stability." I waited a beat before answering. "What happened to your current Director of Continuity?" I asked, sipping water. He smirked. "We were hoping to invent the role with you." The folder slid across the table. 6 pages, no fluff, no NDAs that doubled as burial shrouds. Just clean lines, clear numbers, and a salary that made me blink twice because it wasn't just generous. It was respectful. He watched me scan it, then said, "You can take it home." I shook my head, reached into my own bag and pulled out something heavier than it looked, the old Grenthorne contract, still folded, still highlighted on page 42. I laid it flat between us and tapped the clause. "Keep this," I said, "just in case your next VP can read." He didn't laugh. He just nodded solemn, like I'd handed him a family heirloom. I flipped back to the offer sheet. Everything looked right except one detail. I grabbed the pen from the check presenter. "Two things," I said, crossing out a line. "First, I don't want the word legacy anywhere in my title. I'm not a ghost and I'm not some artifact you dust off when systems fail." Kessler nodded. "Done. And second, I pick my own successor. When the time comes." He blinked, then grinned. "I didn't expect you to be thinking that far ahead." "I always do." We didn't toast. There was no dramatic signature moment, no waiter interrupting with cake and fanfare. Just a deal made in daylight between two people who knew what silence cost. I left the old contract on the table, the ink smudged slightly from my thumb. It had done its job. Now I would do mine on my terms. They lost it. Officially. The news dropped on a Wednesday morning, tucked inside the third paragraph of a Wall Street Journal write-up about vendor mismanagement and the rising cost of corporate oversight. Wallace and Bray's name was bolded, the way shame usually is when someone forgets that contracts aren't just paper, they're promises. Grenthorne Systems had terminated all engagements with immediate effect. No negotiation, no grace period, just one sentence from their legal department. This vendor failed to honor continuity obligations and has been deemed non-compliant. Wallace and Bray's stock fell 11% before lunch. By close of day, analysts estimated $250 million in long-term losses, once you factored in the ripple effect, 2 government audits, 1 canceled aerospace bid, and 3 clients quietly initiating review of partnership terms. Inside the firm, chaos grew roots. The CFO tried to spin it in an internal email as a mutual disengagement, but no one bought it. You can't mutually disengage when you're the one holding the smoking gun with your name etched into the grip. Jared's LinkedIn, once a smug stream of thought leadership drivel and gym selfies, went dark. His profile photo disappeared. His banner, once a filtered cityscape captioned "Building Operational Excellence," was replaced with a blank gray box. Rumors flew. Some said he took a strategic sabbatical, others that he was consulting independently. But insiders knew he was last seen boxing up his standing desk accessories, while HR waited like bouncers outside a nightclub for deadbeat interns. Whispers reached me through back channels. One VP allegedly muttered during a board meeting, "Next time someone says key man clause, I'm tattooing it to my forearm." But by then, I wasn't there. I wasn't on their call logs or in their Slack threads. I wasn't being CC'd or quietly looped in. I was gone, and that was the point. I spent the next month working part-time from my back porch, if you can call occasional strategy calls and invoice approvals working. My new Grenthorne contract didn't include punch cards or performance reviews, just a clear directive: keep us standing. The rest of the time, I read books I never finished, tended my late summer tomatoes, drank coffee that hadn't been reheated 3 times between meetings. No alarms, no team-building workshops, no Jareds. One afternoon, while the sun warmed the balcony and the neighborhood kids made noise like hope down the street, a brown parcel arrived. No return address, no note. Inside, a frame, black walnut, glossy glass, and behind it the original Wallace and Bray Grenthorne contract. Page 42 facing out, clause 17.4, highlighted in faded yellow. My name, L&D Renner, still legible, still standing. I set it beside me, poured a second glass of Pinot, and leaned back in my chair. The breeze was soft. The silence clean, and I thought not of revenge, not of fury, not even of triumph. Just this: they should have asked who the key man was before pulling the trigger. You're the real MVPs of the office jungle. Thanks for watching. Smash that subscribe button, or the coffee pot might just forget your next brew.